Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty give up early gains to end in the red. Bank stocks lead the decline even as mid-caps outperform. Rupee remains resilient despite global volatility as it trades within a 20 paisa range for over 3 weeks. Veteran investor Mark Mobius is bullish on India and expects Sensex to hit 1 lakh in 5 years, plays down fears over rising US debt, but identifies geopolitical tensions as a concern. Multiple lawmakers from opposition parties say they received messages from Apple warning them of state-sponsored attackers trying to hack their iPhones. Apple acknowledges the alerts but says it can't provide more information as it may help the attackers adapt their behavior and evade future detection. An American cybersecurity firm claims COVID vaccine details of 81.5 crore Indians are up for sale on the dark web for $80,000 earlier this month. Sources say India's nodal cybersecurity agency has informed the Indian Council of Medical Research about the alleged data breach. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu rules out a ceasefire in Gaza, says this is time for war. America says a ceasefire right now benefits Hamas. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsens. The UN says nearly 70% of those reported killed in Gaza are children and women. Another acquisition in the hospital space is in the offing. Sources say CVC Capital is in talks to sell its entire stake in Healthcare Global for 4,000 crores. KKR and Manipal hospitals are among interested buyers. Promoter BS Ajay Kumar, who owns over 10% stake, is yet to decide on participating in the deal. That's an exclusive. And Tata-owned Big Basket tops the chart on fair work conditions for gig workers as per a report by Fair Work India. Ride-hailing majors Uber and Ola, along with logistics startup Porter, are the worst platforms. Apps were evaluated on a number of parameters, including fair pay and conditions, fair contracts, and fair representation. All right, let's start with the day's market action. Sensex and Nifty gave up early gains to end in the red. The Sensex lost over 200 points. Nifty lost over 50 points in what was a volatile session on the Lal Street. Bank stocks led the decline, but mid-caps managed to outperform the blue chips. The mid-cap index ended with gains of over 140 points. On to the energy markets, where oil prices recovered ahead of global central bank meetings. Tensions in the Middle East also kept prices higher. At present, Brent crude continues to trade lower than $89 a barrel. Amidst all the volatility in the global bond and currency markets, the Indian rupee has remained resilient. The rupee has remained steady for the last 23 days, moving only within a marginal range. Lata Venkatesh is here with more.
Yeah, that's right. First, let me present the data from September 25th to October 31st. That is 23 trading sessions. The rupee has only moved from 83.05 to a high of 83.28 for the dollar. This kind of a narrow, very ranged 0.2% range was last seen in May, June of 2022. So this is, after 18 months that we are seeing such ranged trading. But the difference this time is this steadiness in the rupee is coming despite or in a context of extreme global volatility. For instance, the US 10-year bond yield on September 25th was 4.53. It went to a high of 5% on October 19. So the range of trading in these 23 trading sessions is 10%. The Japanese yen, the 10-year Japanese bond yield was at 0.73% on September 25th, went to a high of 0.95. That is a 30% range. The DXY dollar index moved from 105.5 on September 25th to a high of 107.34. The range works out to 1.7%. Dollar yen from 148.2 to 150.7 moved in a 1.6% range over the same 7 weeks. The 5 weeks, sorry. FIIs in the same period have sold $4 billion of stocks. And the only other currency which has been as steady as India has been the Chinese renminbi, has only moved from 7.31 to 7.30. But that is controlled by the PBOC. The reason for this clearly is because RBI is intervening. RBI has sold about $4 billion in these 5 weeks. So it's possible that the RBI wants speculators to stay at bay and not attack the rupee at a time when there is turbulence. But the negative of this is that it makes importers, exporters and those with foreign loans a little complicit.
Right, thank you, Lata, for that. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Sensex will reach the 1 lakh mark in the next 5 years. That's the word coming in from market veteran Mark Mobius. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, he played down fears over rising US debt. However, he has identified geopolitical tensions as a concern.
As long as these bonds at 5%, there's going to be a great sucking sound away from the stock market. So people have got to be ready for a correction along the way, because a lot of people will look at the market and say, hey, why should I go into stocks when I can get 5% for my money? However, I still believe that in the next 5 years, the Sensex will go up to 100,000 mark.
There's also increasing chatter about US debt levels that are rising and ultimately have become unsustainable. Is that something that concerns a global investor like you?
Not really, because the debt, as we all know, is payable by printing more money. The US government has the capability of printing. Now, what does that mean? It means inflation. And we've already seen the effects of the COVID money printing press. The reality is that inflation is with us and will continue to be with us, which is why it's so important to be invested in equities.
On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Private equity firm CVC Capital is in talks to sell its entire stake of over 60% in Healthcare Global for 4,000 crores. This according to sources who say that KKR and Manipal hospitals are among interested buyers. Nisha Podar is here with more.
That's right. At least 3 independent sources with direct knowledge of the development have shared with CNBC-TV18 that Healthcare Global is on the block. In fact, the promoter private equity player CVC Capital, which has a controlling stake in the company, has put the company on the block and has launched a sale process, is what we gather. For that, they have even hired a global investment banker to advise them on the transaction. Now, we do gather there is a lot of interest when it comes to the private equity players in a controlled deal, especially in the Indian healthcare space. And we have heard names like KKR and Bearing Asia, already interested parties and in the fray for this particular transaction. Also exploring is a strategic player, Manipal Hospitals of Ranjan Pai, and that's also turning out to be a big consolidator, and that is also interested in this transaction, and all exploring is what we gather from sources with direct knowledge. Now, the ask price for CVC Capital, we gather, is upwards of 4,000 crore rupees for their 60% stake in the company. And a lot of sources do point out that since it's a controlled deal and also they are ramping up the company with small acquisitions to beef up valuation, their expectation has been on the premium side is what we gather. Now, we reached out to all the participants concerned in this, and we did not get a comment, and especially another promoter entity, Dr. Ajay Kumar, he's still undecided on which way he'll go in terms of this particular transaction. Clarity may appear as the deal progresses further, is what we gather.
Right, thank you, Nisha, for those updates. On to another CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Shares of Inox Wind slipped today after its promoter, Inox Wind Energy, sold stake worth 600 crore rupees in the company. This according to sources who say that the promoter has reduced its stake in the company to 42%. Sources also added that Inox Wind Energy will use the proceeds to pay debt in Inox Wind. Right, shifting focus to China now, where the country's manufacturing activity unexpectedly dropped for October, with PMI declining marginally to 49.5. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, non-manufacturing PMI also fell to 50.6, indicating contraction in the sector. This drop comes on the back of lower consumer demand and a weakening export market. In global earnings, oil major BP missed street estimates for the third quarter after reporting a steep loss in the net profit on an annual basis. However, the company reported a quarterly growth which was led by a rise in oil and gas production and higher refining margins. The company's capital expenditure dipped, but operating cash flow saw a rise both on an annual and sequential basis. All right, the big story this evening. Multiple opposition lawmakers in India posted screenshots of a notification they received on their phones warning of a potential cyber attack. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor, Trinamool MP Mahua Moitra, Aam Aadmi Party MP Raghav Chadha were among multiple leaders who claim to have received security alert from Apple, saying the company believes state-sponsored attackers are targeting their iPhones. They accuse the union government of trying to hack into their phones. IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has dismissed these allegations. Meanwhile, Apple has acknowledged that these security alerts were issued but stopped short of revealing more details. My colleague Ashmit Kumar is here with more on this story. Over to you, Ashmit.
Well, as you correctly pointed out, that a number of opposition leaders, the like of Raghav Chadha, Mahua Moitra, Sauddin Owaisi, Shashi Tharoor, have flagged on social media that they have received alerts from Apple. They've in fact posted screenshots. Those screenshots very clearly point out alerts from Apple which say that these devices may be at risk. There may be state-sponsored attacks launched against these devices, that the attacks being faced, in fact, are designed to compromise the iPhone in question and to seek access to the communication, the data, the microphone, the camera. These are concerns that the opposition leaders have raised before the social media. Now, what's important is that Apple, number one, has acknowledged that these alerts, in fact, have gone out. Apple, in fact, has also said that they will not be able to identify one particular source or origin of these state-sponsored attacks, but nonetheless does assert that these are sophisticated attacks that are being launched against these persons in question, that they do not want to reveal any more information than that, as it will help these state-sponsored actors in avoiding detection from the Apple systems, and also in fact go on to say that as far as this particular series of alerts is concerned, it's gone out to various individuals in over 150 countries. Now, what's important is that the government has in fact taken note of this. The government, Ashwini Vaishnav, Telecom and IT Minister, as well as Rail Minister, did a press conference where he issued a statement saying that the government is seized of the matter, that these are serious concerns that have been raised by members of the opposition, and towards that end, the government clarifying that an investigation has been directed as far as these alerts are concerned. In fact, even Apple has been invited to join the investigation for more specific inputs regarding the reasons behind these alerts. However, in same breath, citing the very same Apple statement, Ashwini Vaishnav said that these are quite vague. The assertions being made are vague. They are not specific, that they could be imperfect as far as these assertions are concerned, also going on to say that it could also be a false flag being raised by Apple. And finally concluding by saying, Ashwini Vaishnav, that there is a need to get down to the heart of it, and that Apple devices, Apple itself claims, are secure, and therefore there should not be any untoward risk in terms of compromising of these devices. So assurance is coming in, and a need being felt for an investigation to go down to the bottom of this case.
No matter how much we attack Mr. Narendra Modi, it doesn't have an effect, because the soul is somewhere else. And now we've understood this. We've understood that the soul is there in the parrot, and now we are attacking the soul. And that is why all this is going on. That is why Apple is sending messages. Your phone is being targeted by state-sponsored attackers. The common masses of this country are getting to understand what is going on.
अब ये नौबत क्यों आई मोदी सरकार को हमारे ऊपर भी जासूसी करे, और जासूसी नहीं, ये एक मौलिक अधिकार है हर नागरिक का यहाँ पर उसकी प्राइवेसी के लिए। ये हमारे देश के संविधान कहता है। ये हम चाहते हैं कि सरकार स्पष्टीकरण दे ये क्या कर रही है वो।
Apple has already clarified that their system is, their encryption system is of highest possible order. They've also clarified and issued a statement saying that this kind of advisory has been issued in 150 countries. Friends, these compulsive critics, they have only one habit. Whenever they don't have any major issue, the only thing they'll say is surveillance. We have already ordered an investigation, and we request each and every person who has received the advisory to please cooperate with the investigation and make sure that we go to the depth of the matter.
An American cybersecurity firm has claimed that COVID vaccine details of 81.5 crore Indians were up for sale on the dark web for $80,000 earlier this month. Sources say that India's nodal cybersecurity agency has informed the Indian Council of Medical Research, or ICMR, about the alleged data breach. My colleague Ankur Sharma gets us more.
This is suspected to be the biggest data leak case in the country so far. Details of 81.5 crores Indians with ICMR are on sale. A threat actor, which can be a group or an individual, has advertised the database in the breach forum in dark web and claimed that he has the data of 81.5 crores Indians. This includes the data of Aadhaar, passport information, along with other names, phone numbers, states, as well as their addresses. The threat actor also claimed that the data is extracted from the COVID-19 test details of citizens was sourced from ICMR. Indian agencies are already working on it, and given the gravity of the incident, sources claimed that the government may ask CBI, which is the most premier agency of the country, to probe the matter once ICMR filed the complaint. According to the sources, Certain has informed ICMR about the breach last week. The verification of the sample data which is on sale matches with the actual data of ICMR, after which all agencies and top officials were roped in and informed.
All right, thank you, Ankur, for that update. All right, on that note, it's time for a short break. But coming up next, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has ruled out a ceasefire in Gaza. He says that this is the time for war. More details when we return. Welcome back. The top global story this evening. The war between Israel and Hamas is in its fourth week. Hamas has launched an attack on Israeli forces even as Israel deepens its military presence in northern Gaza. The Israel government has claimed that its forces have killed Hamas commander who directed the 7th October attack inside the group's tunnel network beneath Gaza. The forces also rescued an Israeli soldier, the first since the war began. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has called the United Nations General Assembly's resolution for a humanitarian truce deeply flawed. The Prime Minister has also rejected all calls for a ceasefire, saying that this is the time for war. Meanwhile, officials from a hospital in southern Gaza have confirmed that an airstrike damaged the hospital's infrastructure, damaging the building's oxygen and water supply. The head of UN Relief Agency for Palestine Refugees has said that nearly 70% of those reported killed in Gaza are women and children. Supreme Court has taken note of the deteriorating air quality conditions in the national capital region. The top court has recorded that crop burning is one of the contributors to the falling air quality condition. The court has directed Chief Secretary of States of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi to file affidavits detailing actions taken to address crop burning. For some context, Delhi's air quality has remained in the very poor category for the fourth straight day today. And speaking of poor air quality, the Bombay High Court has taken suo motu cognizance of the poor air quality in Mumbai. The court has directed the city's civic body, BMC, Maharashtra Pollution Control Board and the Central Pollution Control Board to formulate measures to mitigate the issue. The court has placed the matter for hearing on the 6th of November. The Kerala police have filed a case against Union Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar for allegedly spreading religious hatred after his comments on the recent convention centre blast in Kochi. The FIR has alleged that Chandrasekhar's post on X linked the incident to terrorist group Hamas with the intention to target a particular community. A majority of online platforms have not implemented a minimum wage policy for gig workers. This is as per a report by Fair Work India, which interviewed gig workers from 12 platforms in 4 cities on their working conditions. Shilpa Ranipeta joins us now. Shilpa, what did the report assess and how did the platforms fare on these parameters?
Well, Ola, Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, these apps have become an integral part of our lives, and they involve lakhs of gig workers that fulfill these deliveries and services on an everyday basis. But a Fair Works India report for this year shows that some of these platforms continue to lack in providing basic fair work standards for gig workers. Now, Big Basket this year has scored the highest with 6 out of 10, but for the third consecutive year, Ola has scored 0, while platforms like Uber, Porter, Dunzo, Amazon continue to fare poorly. Swiggy and Zomato have shown some improvement over the years. Now, Fair Works India interviews these workers from 12 platforms and gives these scores evaluating the apps for factors like fair pay, fair conditions, fair contracts, fair representation, etc. Now, on fair pay, while Big Basket and Flipkart and Urban Company have a minimum wage policy, no platform ensures actually that workers earn a living wage after you account for costs. Now, these platforms also saw better scoring in fair conditions with safety equipments, accident coverage, etc. While there are companies like Big Basket, Blue Smart, Dunzo, etc. that also ensure that workers are given accessible and comprehensive contracts with protocols for data protection when they come on board. Now, however, no platform has been awarded a point for fair representation. What this means is that despite multiple instances of worker strikes that we've seen across the country over the past year and many legislative changes also that have come in the platform economy, these platforms are unwilling to recognize or negotiate with worker collectives or unions. Now, overall, Fair Work says that while some platforms have shown improvements, there is still massive scope, especially with some legislative changes in the works for gig workers, for them to be able to enjoy rights and protections that those in the formal sector have long enjoyed.
Right, thank you, Shilpa, for those updates. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news continues on the other side.